Okay, guys, this is Bernita. I'm back. This is part two of tonight. We had some technical difficulties that kicked us out. But in order to get the full effect, go back and watch part one where Chosen has, given us her testimony through her writing. So we was asking her um, if you would just go back over this part for me, Chosen, because I got kicked out. As far as therapy, did you get therapy? Did your siblings get therapy? Um, any of that?
I'm not sure, excuse me, about my brother and sister, but like I said, I did, and that was in my early teens, and I did that through, I would say at least I was a good 35 or something like that. But I never really completed anything. It was like I would go for a little while, stop, go back, go for a little while, that type of
Okay. And just the clarity, there you never been you just seen the abuse from your dad abusing your mom.
thing. Right. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And we would, of course, you know, get her, just trying to protect her, basically. Yeah.
And I know this is a tad bit hard and to speak on. Um So we're gonna switch over just a little bit, but I do have a few more questions for you, Chosen. So
Okay.
Sean, can you explain to the audience what trauma is?
Trauma is something gets confused in the brain by typically a traumatic event. Um, for instance, those that may have witnessed the horrors that occurred on 9/11 will have that forever engraved in their brain. That's trauma. It's a traumatic experience. Um,
Hmm.
Okay.
it could be a mental thing. It could be a physical thing too, such as being hit in the head really hard and cause trauma physically.
Right. Um, a question for either you or Barnita. Um, with domestic violence, we see where individuals are often hit in the head, and through trauma, the traumatic experiences, it can cause loss of memory. It could cause so many more different things. So, we heard the story of Chosen, as a child, watching her dad hit her mom and her mom, just going through it. What I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. So we know that's traumatic, even though they weren't hit directly in the head themselves, but watching a parent be hit. Um, what do you say to a child or an adult now seeking help? Um, because even though it wasn't them, they still went through the pain with their mom.
Um, because they, like you as you stated, they went through the pain with their mom. So, and as Sean stated before, the psychological part of it is engraved there. So they would still need some kind of counseling or some kind of, um, therapy treatment because the problem just doesn't go away. It has to be dealt with because you it's there, and because it's there in your mind, it could cause you to have or act out in some type of way, or carry out what you've been programmed to see. We learn behaviors, and I'm not saying that everybody will learn what they see, but a lot of times when we witness this, at some point in time, because now we have all this anger build up on the inside. At some point in time, something could just trigger the thoughts, and cause them to re-experience what they lived, and they're re-experiencing their mind, like soldiers do when they have post-traumatic syndrome disorder. Um, Help is always something that we should get when we witness stuff like this, because not only did the victim who it was being done to, it was also being done to the children, because it's embedded in their thoughts as well, if that makes sense to you guys.
Hmm. Chosen, let me ask you something, because something Barnita said. She said that, with you guys seeing it, sometimes it can cause you to act out. Was there ever a time when you was in school, you or either your siblings acted out because of what you seen at home?
In school, actually, I didn't have like outbursts. I just secluded myself, is what I did. Um, I didn't feel like, my voice was relevant. I didn't feel like my life had any importance or purpose. And so I was just in my own shell. And I remembered it being so unusual that it did grab the attention of my teachers, because they would call me in the office because I was so unusually quiet. Like, I wouldn't even answer their questions. I wouldn't participate in class. When they would pull me out and ask me different questions, I was afraid to answer anything, because my first thought is that I don't want her, my mom, or myself, or anybody else to get into trouble. It was just a life of inner fear, you know. Yeah. And what Sean mentioned too about the trauma, like the example that you gave about the 911, that is some things that I have like experienced, like hearing loud voices, and people may not be arguing, but they're just loud. And that would make me revert back to that. And I would feel afraid. I would shut down. I got to get away, that type of thing, not really wanting to be around large crowds. I cannot stand to hear a man being, arguing or just being really argumentative, especially towards a woman. Um, I used to have a lot of dreams about it, and then too, when I started expressing myself through writing, I was reliving it. And there were times when I would write and I would have to put it down and just like put my hands over my head, because I could hear the screams. I'm like reliving the screams and the sounds of the punching and the hitting, and you know, furniture turning over, and things like that, and us, trying to protect, with our little selves, but doing just whatever we could to take the heat off of her.
Sean, you was about to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say in regards to someone who's experienced, um, so a secondhand has experienced a traumatic event, I would definitely recommend still to attend counseling if you believe it will help. There's a misconception sometimes that trauma is just trauma for the person that's directly affected. There's witness to trauma that could be just as affected in a sense. Again, with 9/11, people get into car accidents. People that died into them have that trauma. In fact, that's PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. But the people that witness it, it's such a horrific event that gets infused into your brain that creates trauma for you as well. So it's like the person driving can have, terrors and the sound of loud horns beeping. The person that witnessed it can have the same terror, the same fear right into it. So I just put it on the.
Okay, so let me ask the both of you. You know, when people go through, we often tell them, they need to seek therapy. They need to seek counseling. And some people think therapy and counseling is the same thing. Can you tell the audience what's the difference between therapy and what's, the difference between therapy and counseling?
Who you talking to? Me? All right.
Either
When we
you or I.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't know if you had actually called a name. Counseling tends to be a short term. Both of them kind of interchange with each other and have many similarities. But when you say counseling, we're trying to help you get past the I guess you would say the first part, and then when you get into therapy, there is like a deeper part because it's for a longer period of time. Counseling can go on for 6 to 8 months, whereas in therapy could go on for years because it digs deeper than what just general counseling does. It digs a little bit deeper and goes a little bit further. And it depends on what kind of therapy you're looking for. Psychotherapy goes way deep than just you sitting here on my couch and I'm talking to you and you revisiting or reading, evaluating what happened and how it happened and this, that, the other. But when we talk about psychotherapy, it digs deeper into the cortex and it just goes a little bit further than what a general counselor can do. Sean, can you help me out here? I think there's a lot of lag.
Mm-hmm.
I think Vanita had to step away for a moment, but we're just going to carry on and finish from here. Um, and anybody can answer this. Just chime in. Uh, so whoever deals with domestic violence is never physically abused, but has been emotionally or psychologically abused. How does the effects of the brain and how does that affect the brain and cause trauma? And anybody can answer that.
As I stated before, when we think about how does this go ahead, I think it's a lot of lag in it.
Go ahead, Barnina.
Okay. As I stated before, when we talk about how does it affect the brain, how does the trauma affect the brain, you have to from my studies, it lets me know that it could cause post-traumatic stress disorder, including re-experiencing avoidance and numbing. This disorder is found in many males that have been like in war, in the military, something like that. And people who have been through a lot of domestic violence, they tend to have these traits just as they do, because so many areas of the brain are affected by it. It causes the fear, it causes emotions, the anger, the shutdown when you just don't want to say anything because in certain instances you're made to say stuff that you don't want to say. So when you get out around people, you pretty much shut down and you're in your own world. And that's where you find yourself being safe at. And if you think about a lot of soldiers and stuff, when they come back from the military, a lot of them go into seclusion because they don't want to be around, and loud noises and anything could trigger, um, um, them to really act out or go through what they've been through in war. One of my nephews, he didn't go into detail, but he often talked about things that he saw, and he would never want anyone who was not mentally able to understand or pretty much handle what he saw when he was in the military in Afghanistan. He didn't wish that on anyone. It's because it leaves your mind in a state to where anything could set you off. Now, why he went into the field of work that he did after that, I have no idea. I don't know if that was a coping mechanism for him or whatever, but he chose to work just for himself. And I think that kind of helped him to be in seclusion. Not that he's a shell shock, like stay in, but it kind of gives him the space that he needs to work out the things that he needs to work out. So when we think about domestic violence and the effects that it have on the brain, it's a lot. It's deeper than just saying that, oh, I remember when. It's embedded in the thoughts and in the memory bank.
And too, whenever we talk about domestic violence and abuse and trauma too, we also have to talk about that. Just not that instance of domestic violence, it also triggers other things. And we talk about PTSD, also triggers anxiety, depression, suicide, other things. So when we talk about it, it's a culmination of a lot of things that are triggered just by that one event. Yep. So it's more traumatic than what people just realize whenever you think about domestic violence. And then too, one of the things I write about in my book is that it has a ripple effect. It has a ripple effect on other people or other people that's involved in it, like children of abuse or children that's in an abusive home.
Yeah, because you find that those children sometimes, because I work with kids, sometimes you'll find that those children have behaviors that, you wonder why. And then when you have to send out the social worker, you realize this is what's going on in the home. And you have to, your heart goes out to them because they're only doing what they see. And as children, they sometimes can't detect, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. And they can't control their feelings and their emotions. So when something triggers that off in them and they're in the school environment, and the social workers go out, we immediately then we see, okay, and then we begin to understand the child a little bit better. Because sometimes we just jump to conclusion, oh, he's just bad. No, what is he going through at home? That's a question that I always ask. I wonder what's going on at home. Why does this child act this way? Children don't just act this way.
No, and you have to also look at telltale signs too of abuse. Not just abuse of the child, but other things like you'll see like you said, a child is withdrawn from school, especially if they've been an active participant in school. If you start seeing signs of children withdrawing or having fits of anger or rage, they can't control their emotions. Those things are telltale signs of there's something that's going on in the home, and it could be abuse. It could be child abuse, or it could be also be domestic violence.
Yeah.
Now, one of the questions that we and I often ask this when I reach out to other survivors of domestic violence, how does someone determine the type of therapist he or she needs after domestic violence? I'll start with that. I always tell someone who I'm talking to that they should pick a therapist that specialize in a certain part of trauma. Number two, someone that you think that you can trust. Someone If you've already gotten a therapist, someone that is a listening ear, someone that's going to hear, because there's a lot of things that you're going to have to talk out and get over and deal with. So those are the things that I tell someone whenever I'm advising them on how to pick out a therapist or how to find a therapist for them. Anyone else have any suggestions? Or
Dwayne, before they come in, I remember when my therapist, I still go and see my therapist.
I agree with that with the therapist. And people have
I still go and see my therapist, but one thing that she told me, she said, you can come and sit on this couch all day, but if you choose not to help yourself, it's nothing I can do to help you. She said, in order for me to get to the root of it, you have to talk. If you want to just come in here and sit, I'm going to take your money. You're going to go home in the same predicament that you came in here in. So, she was a little firm. I was like, wait, she was a little rude, you know? And if you know me, I'm looking at her like, you ain't about to take my money. But the first session, I really didn't say anything, you know? And then when I left, I was mad. I was like, I'm never going back. But now I understand why she said what she said. If I don't talk about it, I'm not going to get the healing that I need. I'm not going to be able to, she's not going to be able to help me, like if I need medication management. She's not going to be able to help me to get me where I need to be. You know, I didn't understand that in the beginning. I just felt like this little 4-foot lady was being very rude, you know. What she means she's going to take my money. So I said that to say this. Even if you get therapy, if you get counseling, there's some work that you have to do as well. I think Sean was saying something, but okay.
I would agree with you on that, Benita. Like I said, I tell a lot of people that they have to, not have to, but it works better if you are an active participant, because you're trying to heal here and you're trying to heal here. And the only way you can, and I know that it may be a struggle. I'll say this: I say the most traumatic thing that I've ever been through is probably the death of both my parents. They died a year apart from each other, and that was the most, because and it was a surprise. It was a surprise. I mean, I had no idea that either one of them were sick, and it took me a while to even talk about it. And there's some things that I do that's not healthy as far as coping mechanisms and stuff like that. Because I don't want to relive that. I can't remember certain things. So I refuse to remember certain things. Like I refuse to remember their birthday, because their birthday is a reminder that they're not here anymore. Looking at some pictures, you know, triggers it for me. There was a while that it was even difficult for me to even talk about it, because at the time of the death, that all my siblings were affected by it, and I had to do the one thing that I couldn't do at that time, which was get up and talk about my mother at the funeral. Wow. And say words about my mother at the funeral. I had never, spoke at a funeral, and this was difficult. And it was the point where I had to be strong because of the fact that everybody else was so hurt. And so it was a year after before I had a sigh of relief. I actually literally had a sigh of relief on the anniversary of their death. So whenever we talk about trauma and we talk about things that triggers us or that we're reliving, there are going to be times that we're going to have to relive it. But we have to talk it out. We have to talk it out to get it out. Holding in only creates more problems, more issues. more things.
Mhm.
And you know, having therapy or going to therapy in our community is a taboo. It's a taboo that people just don't even talk about or want to talk about or suggest. But I tell anybody, talk therapy is one of the best solutions to trauma.
That's right. I agree.
You said talk therapy.
Talk therapy. Talk. I
Okay.
mean, that's what I mean. Therapy anyway. But I I
Yeah.
I, I say talk therapy as in you talking it out
Yeah.
Right.
versus medication management, which a lot of people will go that route first versus talk therapy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. That's right.
I know for me, Dwayne, and I think Chosen spoke about it, some triggers. With the abuse that I went through, I don't like to argue. I don't like to argue with people. I don't like to hear people arguing. I don't like the B word. That is a major trigger for me. Um, I just do not like it at all. Um, I came off screen because you were triggering me a little bit when you start talking about your mom.
I was tricking myself.
For me, losing my mom, it just really done something. So, but nevertheless, we're talking about the trauma. And Barnita, what would you say is some common techniques that people can use you know, um, when they're going through, or if they've been through like domestic violence, any form of trauma? What are some common techniques that they can use?
As I was looking at this today because I kind of forgot a lot of stuff that I learned. Um, and some of the most common things that they talked about is breathing. And I know people are saying like breathing. Yeah, you sometimes got to take a deep breath and relax before you can get in the conversation to tell someone what's going on. Um, you have to learn to relax, get in a place where you can think outside of your problem to see what it is that you can do about the situation that you're in. Um, Calming yourself, go somewhere where it's relaxing. Um, go with some friends or by yourself and just get some time to yourself. Because most of the time when we're going through, everybody has an opinion and nobody's really helping. So sometimes we just have to be alone and gather our thoughts and do rigorous prayer and seek God for what it is that He wants us to do. And I'm not saying you getting beat up and you go pray. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in order for you to cope with what's going on and in order for you to find yourself and pull yourself together, you have to find a way that works for you. Um, when I was going through with my first marriage, my divorce, and it was crazy. I sought God a lot. It helped me to stay calm, and it helped me not to do what my mind was telling me to do, because you guys probably wouldn't know me now. I probably would have been in jail. Well, I might would have been out now, but you know, I was there. And so what worked for me was to find a place of solitude where I could refocus, rethink, and reorganize and redo. Um, and you have to have that, and that's what I would tell a person. You have to readjust your life because of what's going on. It can't stay the same.
Exactly. I
Sean,
do have a question.
go ahead, Chosen.
And this is for either of you, but I would just like to know, like, what is your thought um, when you are, seeking counsel? And these are two statements that I heard quite a bit. Some of my reasoning for dropping out of it was just because I didn't follow through. And some of the other reasons was just because of the approach from the counselor. So I was told a few times, just to get over it, like just get over it. And especially at the age that I was. And I'm talking about being 20, 30 years old, that type of thing. And then the other thing that I was asked a lot too is that why are you dealing with this at this age still? And I don't even know how to answer that question. All I know is that I'm bothered by it. I know that, that it does affect my life, to a certain degree in how I interact with people. And again, like how I seclude myself and things of that nature and still having, dreams and, anxiety, depression, stuff like that. And just that whole feeling that I felt that of being inadequate that came along with me. I carried that on my back for a long time. And so I don't understand how that those statements like that can help a person. I don't understand that. And that kind of what makes me, I'm not going to say shy away, but just kind of just put my hands up about it. Like it has put a bad taste in my mouth about it.
As it should. Counselor's job is to understand what you're saying and help you. It should not at any point make you feel inadequate about the way that you feel. Honestly, because I'm an advocate for counseling 100%. If you don't have good chemistry with your counselor, I understand in counseling there's a chance that they will say some things that will open you up some, and that experience in of itself can be uncomfortable. But still, if you don't have that chemistry with your counselor where you feel comfortable, if you don't feel that they're listening, if you can look at them and know that they don't really care, if they're just looking around the room, it's just like anybody else in a sense. You're sitting in a room talking to somebody about you, Phil, and you see them just twiddling their fingers, looking around. You know that person's not listening to you. And you can speak to somebody else, and I believe it's the same with a counselor. Don't feel that counselor is really helping you. It's okay. It's the same thing with a doctor. If you don't feel like the doctor's really helping you or understanding what you're saying or working with you with your health, you'll find another doctor. It's the same thing with a therapist. So I wouldn't use that to exclude therapy altogether. Maybe you and that therapist just don't. And now speaking to therapists, and there are some therapists that say that they don't really feel that click with their patient either. Strange it is to think about from the other side. You may not feel connection to your therapist, and your therapist may feel like, you know what, I don't have experience with the exact issue you're going through. I may not be the best fit for you. What they're supposed to do is say, okay, well, maybe I can recommend you if you like somebody else. Because if I'm trying to help you and I don't understand it, and I'm trying and it's still not doing so much good, I should give you over to somebody or recommend you to somebody, and more. Because if not, I run the risk of doing more harm than good. There's actually a code of ethics behind that. I learned that in my undergraduate stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I just want to piggyback off something that Chosen said too. When you said that, how can people ask you, these questions or, make these things? And like I said, I came to domestic violence as a novice. I have no experience as far as family or being an abuser. I came to it as a novice. I didn't know about it. I actually came to it from a job. So part of it is ignorance. Part of it is willful ignorance. There's a difference. There's ignorance as willful ignorance, where people just don't want to know about it. And there's the small percent of it are people who, like me, who, don't know anything or never had any experience in it at all. And that's the reason why we do these roundtables. We do these roundtables to bring awareness. So other people will know. I mean, because it's just not all about survivors. It's not all about victims. There are some people out there who want the information, who want to know about it. So we do these roundtables to provide awareness. So when I tell people, and the best way that I can explain, how somebody is still suffering from the effects of domestic violence, and later on, it's kind of like, I describe it as this. I coined the term arrested development. And that is a traumatic event that's happened in your life that has caused you or stunted you from growing or proceeding on. And that's what happens in domestic violence. And it could be you'll see a real difference in children, but you'll also see a difference in adults too. Where even though you can see where people have operated and have moved and have grown up physically, but mentally there's a deficit that they're suffering from because of that traumatic event, and it causes reoccurring events or reoccurring actions that causes that. So when I talk to somebody, because when I was first writing my book and I was telling people, what I was writing about, it was like, well, what happened with you? Did you go through it? No, I'm just an advocate. I see a cause in my community that I want to do something about. I think that's real serious. So when people want to know, try explain it that way, or taking a traumatic event that or just a singular event. How does that make you feel? Because like I said, when people ask, it's one of the most insensitive questions is, why didn't you leave? I look at them and it's like, you got to be one of the stupidest persons to ever ask that question, because you don't know what someone goes through when they're in an abusive relationship. To ask why didn't they leave is like asking why. It's just like, why?
Right.
So I look at it, like I said, I look at it those three ways. I look at it ignorance, willful ignorance, and just people just not experienced with it. Because like I said, domestic violence is a taboo in our community, especially. Therapy is definitely a taboo in our community. So you have an event, an issue that causes something that you don't want to deal with.
So, Chosen, let me say this to you. As everyone was speaking, you're told to just get over it. I'm often asked, if you forgave him, why do you speak up and speak out? I speak up and speak out because what I went through, if man had his way about it, I wouldn't be here. I have a metal plate on my intestines. So you don't think that I'm going to speak out? Yeah, I'm going to tell it. I lost a son through it. The reason they're asking you, why are you dealing with this at this age? What they don't realize is some underlying issues there. And until you deal with it, you can't be who you need to be. It needs to be dealt with. I went through several therapists, several counselors, because a lot of them wants to just put you on medication.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like taking medicine. That's number one. So the first couple of ones, I ain't go back. I don't like taking medicine. And now you want me to remember to take this medicine. I just told you I went through some traumatic experiences. So sometimes I can't even remember what tomorrow is. But now you want me to remember to take these medications every day. Now, that wasn't for me. I often tell people, when you're choosing your therapist, when you're choosing your counselor, treat it just like you would your eyes. I see that most of us have on glasses. I'm not going to a foot doctor to look at my eyes. So when I'm seeing a therapist, sometimes it's going to take a couple of visits here and there. Yeah. As Sean said, you're not going to connect with everybody. But when I tell you my counselor, She like 4 feet up. If you want to come here and sit, be my guest. I'm gonna get paid. It's your choice. There was things that I had blocked out that I didn't want to deal with, but I had to in order to get there. So what I'm going to say to you from this day on, don't worry about what other counselors said. Don't worry about their approach. You write down what you want to see for Chosen. You write down what you think that Chosen needs, and then you seek your therapist. If you go and you don't have a fit, great. When they say schedule an appointment, no. Can you refer me to somebody else? You have that right.
That's right.
We advocate for everybody, like when it comes to domestic violence, but if you can't advocate for yourself, and if you get there and you don't feel like you can advocate for it, baby, I'll see you right there. I'll call them for you. My team will tell you, I'm an all times day and night. So no matter where you go, my phone is in my hand. I'm here for you. I will advocate for you. I will advocate with you. And that's what this is about. As you see, it's different ones up here with different organizations. I don't care about that. At the end of the day, is we get what we need to be a healthier you.
That's right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
When somebody tell you to get over, say I am. That's why I'm gonna get the help that I need, because I'm gonna get over. When they ask you why you're dealing with, I'm gonna get the help. I want to be a better me. I want to be a healthier me. So I have to deal with this because this has caused me trauma. This was not fair to me. But in order to be a better me, so I can be a better mom, so I can be a better grandma when that time comes, so I can be a better this, I'm gonna deal with it.
Amen.
A lot of times, for people to push you out of the way, not deal with it themselves, they'll tell you, don't deal with it. I understand why it's important to you. The average person that tells you that, they got some other issues themselves.
That's right.
When you're seeking your counselor, when you're seeking your therapist, go. If it don't work, fine. Can you refer me to somebody else? But sometimes it's gonna take you doing some work. And my team will tell you, my saying is faith without works is dead. Meaning, I got the faith that I'm gonna be healed. I got the faith that this is gonna happen for me. But I have work that I have to do as well. And if that means going to this counselor, going to this therapy, going to this therapy, going here, going there, until I get that one message, bingo. I done that. But also, we have work to do where we have to speak up and say, hey, this is what happened. This is the issue that I want to deal with. Because if we keep holding it in and just going to sit on their couch, they're going to get paid. They're going to get fair to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's right. You do have a choice, as everyone has stated. If they're not doing what you need them to do, it's like you're paying them. So you have a choice. No one should ever make you feel like you're less than what you are and who you are. It's not our job to ask you why you're still going through it. It's our job to help you get through it to the best of our abilities. And as Sean stated, if that's not my field, let me refer you to one of my colleagues that can help you a little bit better, instead of just throwing you out and saying, well, just get over it, or why are you still dealing with it? You still dealing with it because you're still dealing with it. It's just like a drug addict that's on drugs and their dopamine in their brain has been rewritten, and now they crave for this drug. The thing that is bothering you is still there. And just because we don't deal with it doesn't mean that it's not there. and they want you to just push it under the rug, but it's not something that you can push under the rug. You have to find the right fit for you. It's just like a puzzle. You have to find the right therapist just for you. You don't need a marriage counselor because you said you're not married. You need someone that's going to get to the root and help you deal with the thing that you're dealing with. That's why sometimes we look at marriage counseling, grief counseling, and all different kind of counseling. But I need something that's a little bit more. I need somebody to deal with my psychological brain, my psychological thoughts, what's really going on up here. I can counsel you in marriage. I can counsel you in grief. I can counsel you in something else. But when it comes to the psychological part, I may have to refer you to someone else. Does that make me less than who I am? No. That lets you know that I care. And when you have a therapist that does not do that, they don't care and they don't deserve your money at all. And as Sean said, there's an ethic. You just can't ask people or make them feel some type of way just because I don't understand what you're going through, just because I haven't been there, just because it wasn't in my front door. That's why we go to school. So we can help people get past these things, not so we can make people feel bad. And as Mr. Hennett said, in the Black community, we're not going to counseling. We don't need help. We don't need this. It's like, something's wrong. Is she crazy? No, I need help to deal with this thing that I'm dealing with. Is he crazy? No, he needs help. Soldiers go off and defend this country every day and they come back broken, damaged. They need help. Are they crazy? No. They just need help to get past this trauma that they've been through. So it's not our job to make you feel like you're less than a person because you went through this. It's our job to help you be the best you that you can be and get past it and go on. Because that done worried my whole soul right there when you said that. I was just waiting so I could say something.
It was just like reliving the abandonment all over again, and feeling like your feelings and your voice and stuff like that doesn't matter. That's what it made me feel like, and it did just make me revert. I was just like, forget it, don't worry about it. And but yes, I agree with everything. I will say, during those times, I was not really just strong enough. I would, instead of fighting for myself, it was just easier just to quit and just to go back to my shell, because that was my comfort place. But I'm trying to come out of that. I was trying to come out of that. But like I said, I'm not there now, meaning that I will speak up for myself now. And I will be an advocate for myself and even for others, and through my job or at church or whatever the case. If the Lord puts somebody in my path, it seems like he always puts someone in my path that has gone through similar things. And I thank God that he's gifted me to be able to listen. I mean, listening is a ministry. A person needs to be heard. Like, that is so important. And if you don't do that, I mean, that's damaging. It's so thoughtless, not to let someone sit there and talk and get that stuff out, because their voice had been silenced for so long for whatever reason. It's just not right. And so the least that you could do is just listen. I feel like that's a great part of therapy right there. Is hearing what the hurt has to say.
And when we reflect on domestic violence, one of the key things is, a manipulator takes power and control over the relationship. So a lot of times, those that are going through are isolated or made to feel belittled. So, like, they're not able to voice their opinion. That person is not going to listen to them. So if someone do come to you with a domestic violence situation, listening is the key. You will get a lot of information out of just listening. That's one of the things that I tell the young ladies that does the intake for SWAT. Listen, the key thing to them when they're calling, they're already distressed. They're already been through a lot. The person abusing them is not listening to them. So if you put your listening ear on, guess what? A majority of the questions that we're going to ask them, they're going to give. But we have to listen in order to get it. Because if you start repeating the same question, well, I done gave you that information. Were you
Exactly.
or not?
Exactly.
So that's like the key when we're advocating. We have to listen. You know, I can't push anything on you. But what I can do is listen and say, well, here is some referrals for you. You know, everybody that calls the hotline is not ready to leave. We understand that. But if I just listen, because they're not being heard at home, that could be the best medicine that I can give them at the, you know, at that moment.
Right. A lot of times, we have to, you know, I tell people all the time, are you listening to hear or are you listening to understand? There's a difference. Well, I hear you, but am I really understanding what you're saying? Am I really listening to understand you, to see what you need, or am I just hearing what you're saying to me? And a lot of times people need you to listen so that you can understand exactly what they're saying and what they're going through. Because a lot of times it's not so much of what they say, it's what they don't say. And you already have the question in your mind. And if you sit and listen long enough, that very question and every question that you have will be answered in what they're really not saying. And I say this to people all the time, as Chosen stated earlier. Listening is a ministry. I have a sister, and she's a listener. And I told her God blessed her to be a listener. I think that's her gift. She listens, and she attentively listens, and she doesn't spill. She listens and she takes in, and she gives you whatever the Lord has for her to give you.
That's right.
But she doesn't give it out to other people. And I told her, I said, you know, you're a listener. I said, that's just what you do. You'd be surprised at the people that call her that just need to talk. And are going through a lot of stuff, but they just need somebody to talk to. I often pick up my phone 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I just listen. I don't have to say anything. I just need somebody to listen to. And I'm like, okay, I'm here. You have to listen to people because you could save that person's life, save that person's children's life. When we don't listen and don't take time, and it's not important because it's not my son, it's not my daughter, it's not my sister, it's not my brother, that doesn't help. It's a human being who needs your help. They need you to listen. They need a vent. They need a way to just express themselves. And so it's important that we listen to what people have to say and understand exactly what they're saying and really get deep into what they're not saying to understand the situation that they're in.
Exactly.
Right. Sean, let me ask you a question. Can you talk to us about the psychological perspective and how the trauma infused the brain?
Yes. Well, psychological perspective of it is, for one, there is the obvious physical part of it. The trauma infused from the possibility of physically hit does damage to the brain and the mind. Brain side of it, it can cause problems with vision, problems with memory, confusion, not sure why. Mind part of it, the psychological part of it, part that leads into the PTSD is from the experience itself. A lot of people who have had PTSD from domestic violence, studies have shown them to have increased depression, increased aggression, actually, and it's a risk of them actually bring that into relationship with the next person. Honestly,
Right.
and it's something about it there that makes them angry. All feelings, just why didn't I leave? Why didn't I do this? Could I have been, you know, you ask them, well, why didn't you? Sort of guilt that may not necessarily need to be there, and that anger they keep inside harbor. They don't find constructive ways to release it. If you don't speak to somebody about it, it creates that resentment inside, and that anger can carry over from that. And then there is a situation mentioned where certain things can trigger it. From an event like that, there's a good chance we'll have triggers. There's a chance that you said someone yelling above a certain bit will just remind you of that. Someone knocking on the door remind you of someone that kicked in the door. That's ingrained in your mind. It sometimes keeps your body in a state of hyper arousal and sends fight or flight. Something like that just set you back to that time. And it could be the day after, the month after, year after, years after. So PTSD doesn't have a time limit on it. Another popular opinion is that time heals all wounds. Honestly, that's not the case. Some things that time will not take away. There's some things that will get better with time, but time doesn't make things disappear, honestly. The only thing that's your ability to cope with it, your ability to work with it. And spending time not to be exposed to those triggers. But it's in your mind. The degree of which depends on person to person.
That's right.
It's in there, maybe strong for some, a little less for some. Doesn't make the one that has it more any weaker or less any stronger. You have to get out of the mind of comparing your degree of trauma to somebody else's. Trauma is trauma.
Yes.
Fire is fire. Whether it's burning leaves or burning oil, fire is fire.
Mm-hmm. That's
Right.
good.
So let me ask Bernita or either Sean, what are some questions that you may ask someone that's going through, to get them the help that they need? Like if they need, like Chosen has asked, she been through different counselors, some tell her just get over it. Some just say, why you trying to deal with this? Some may say, well, if you healed, you're over it, you out of it, why do you still want to talk about it? Like, what questions do you ask, or what, if you was faced with it, so that you can send them or refer them to the help that they need?
I would ask them, what is it they're looking for? Starting as simple as that. If are looking for someone that listens more to what they have to say, talks less, someone that talks more about the issue. It'd be the same thing if shopping for a doctor or a specialist in the field. Mental health, same thing. What is it hope to find? What is it? Would you like to see? Are you more comfortable talking to a male therapist, a female counselor? What is your preference? Because that's where you're going to be spending your time and your money talking about your feelings. I do not believe in selling. If you're not comfortable, just don't do it. Honestly, there was a time not too long ago I had went for counseling. And this was initial process, first time meeting them.
And to let you know, I really mean what I say. They start off asking some initial questions, where's it went to school, how was your childhood, answering those questions. They'll immediately switch to another question. Okay, well, how's work? Work's pretty good. We have some things going on. Okay, and where did you grow up at? I grew up in New Jersey. And your parents? I was like, well, my parents. And okay, well, how was work again? Like they bounce around a lot. I already knew at that point, because I had been to counseling before where I was doing undergrad at ECU. I know, and I've had good experience with a therapist. So I know what good traits are in a therapist. They listen to you. They'll listen to you fully. And when you're in the sentence, to let you know that they've heard you, they'll actually ask you about something that you said, not just jump in and talk about, oh yeah, that reminds me of I went to the same thing. I just this, and they'll actually show that they're here for you. So after a few minutes of that, I left. I paid my pay for the day. I left. I haven't been back because I don't have to make anything work. My job, honestly. So have an idea what it is you like. If you don't see it, you can find it somewhere. Honestly, I'm 100% advocate for therapy. If it's a bad relationship with a therapist or one that doesn't think, I believe, don't give up on therapy. This is not chemistry with a therapist.
Right. How would you help someone who is desiring counseling, but say that, they don't have insurance or they're not working? Like, what's available for people in situations like that?
There is actually, if they've been through domestic violence, and it's causing triggers or whatever, there's actually some organizations where, there is counseling. We do have some connections. So, if anybody is watching, we do have some connections that we can help. It's not totally free. But it is but the fees are reduced when we, refer out. So that's one of the blessings about connecting and networking with different organizations and, having the round tables because it opens us up to be able to help people that are desiring that help. We have one of my brothers, he has therapy that he do. He take his and it's for the men. And he will not turn women down as well. And he do have, where it's open. I do have connections with the local therapists here that can help. So it's all about networking, getting what you need. And if it's anybody listening, just reach out. We will make it happen where you can get the help that you need, to get the counseling that you need, the therapy, whatever it is that you need to be a better you. We don't, insurance
Especially
shouldn't be whether you get your healing or not. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm sorry. I'm saying, especially today with such great access to technology, it's easier now more than ever before to be able to find a resource. And some of those resources are now online. Even pre-COVID, some of them were appearing online. You can just several apps, websites. Even years ago, there's several online communities, support communities to go to. There's ways to get help.
And
if
also,
it's someone you're comfortable asking,
a lot of people don't know Trillium.
Oh, last thing
Go ahead, Sean. It's like a lag, so
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Also, a lot of people don't know, but Trillium has therapy and counseling set up where you can chat with them. A lot of people are not aware of it, but it's out there. It's free. Um, so like I said, I have a whole list of resources. So if anybody is out there and they need help, that is what this is for. I want as many people to be healed, to start that healing process, to get the resources that they need, and possibly, if they can pass this information on. That's what this is about. So, do anybody else on the panel have any questions, anything they want to say to the viewers?
I just say that if you're in a situation and you need help, just reach out to somebody. Don't let it be too late. Don't feel like you're alone. You're not alone. We may be here now, but we have not always been here. Um, we've been through some things as well, and I think that that's why it's so important that we do the roundtables, because people will look at you and look at us as if we have not gone through anything, but we've gone through as well, and we know where you are, and we're able to help you as much as possible. And if we can't, we're able to refer you to someone who can. As Vernita says, she has lots of connections. Sean knows some people. Is like he said, this you can go online and you can find some things with technology now that was not available 10, 12, 15 years ago. But now you can go online and pretty much find a lot of stuff, and it's all in the networking. You don't have to go through the situation alone. You can reach out to people is out here, and it's not that um, you're something's wrong with you. It's just that you've been caught in a situation that's out of your control, and you need somebody to help you get through this situation. So reach out. I mean, don't suffer this alone. Don't go into hiding. Come out and let somebody help you, especially if you have kids, or even if it's just you and you need help. Please reach out to somebody. Reach out to anybody and try to get some help.
Chosen, anything you want to say to the viewers?
I would just say, for myself, even though I wasn't consistent, in counseling, but still just, even if you're unable to, or if you're not ready, at least just having that someone that you can talk to, be transparent and vulnerable with, somebody that you can trust with your pearls, because that's really important right there, because you want to be sure that that information is not going to get out and destroy you. And then to, for those, of course, I mean, hey, I'm a minister, so I'm always, saying that, if you're not saved, I'm telling you to get to know the Lord, to confess him as your personal Lord and Savior. And, throughout my walk with Christ and growing in my relationship with God, a lot of strongholds have been broken, have been torn down, due to me getting close to God and talking to him. Of course, he knows everything. Yes, he does. But he wants a relationship. So the same way that I'm speaking to you all is the same way that I talk to my God. And it helps me. Like, I'm able to get that stuff out, and I'm definitely, not downplaying therapy at all, because quite honestly, I feel like I could benefit from it. I mean, I'll be honest with you, God put it here. So, it would be senseless to downplay it. However, but what's been taking place right now is just what God is doing. In one way that he uses to bring about healing and deliverance for me is being on platforms like this, and then him sending people my way that is broken, is somebody that I can help, somebody that I can pray with. I would God has never put anybody in my path and I have not given what I got, which is the word of God, which is my testimony, to at least testify of the goodness of God and what he's done in me and what he's still doing. Because sometimes, a few years ago, I think in 2015, a lady once told me that I was working with, I was a new employee there, and she told me that the Lord was telling her to get to know me and that he was going to use her to minister to me. Well, just based off of my looks, she, rejected what the Lord told her, because to her it looked like I had everything together. But that's not so. That's not so. I mean, God is working on me every day. He's perfecting me every day. And even though I have the word of God in me, I'm not perfect. I still go through things. I have bad days. I have terrible days. I have good days. I have days that I don't want to talk. Last night, I was up to 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because I was so afraid of getting up here and doing what I know that the Lord has called me to do. But I did not want to expose this side of me. I can talk about the drugs, I can talk about a whole bunch of other stuff, but this right here is so sensitive. And I mean, fear gripped me big time. But I just kept communicating with God and praying and drawing strength from him, so that I can get up here and do what I got to do. Because although I went through what I went through, I can't just look at myself, because God says that we overcame by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And somebody needs to hear this. This is going to be a help to somebody, and I have to think of that. If I keep my mouth shut, what about that other person? What about that child? What about, that mom or that man or whatever the case may be? I'm not serving a purpose by walking in fear, or, just keeping my mouth shut and acting like it's nothing when it's truly something, and it's healing and deliverance for us all. And I just pray that somebody got something out of this, you know.
Amen.
Sean? I think he's frozen again.
I think it's the lag.
We're going to give it a few minutes. Okay, it kicked them out.
Wow.
All right, guys. Tonight has been a night. In the midst of this. So if you've watched tonight, the first part of it, we got kicked off. After Chosen's told her story. The second half, once we came back on, I got a phone call that my cousin, who's like a niece, was in a terrible car accident. So as soon as I get off here, I'm on my way to Tarboro. Domestic violence causes so much harm and trauma. But before I get into my spiel, Sean, is there anything you want to say to our viewers?
Yeah, sorry about that. I would say, if you feel anybody that's listening feels the pain from that trauma that you've been through when you're younger, to speak like somebody that you trust. Honestly, I just wish there wasn't such a stigma around the world and our community among genders. that says reaching out to talk to somebody makes you weak. That's what's keeping people from speaking to each other and getting this off their chest. That's keeping people from trying to seek the help that they need. And honestly, you'd be surprised. There's people that have way less than us, twice as happy, way more than us. You never know who it is that has something in common with you.
Mhm.
So again, just advocating for speaking to someone, for not holding that trauma that you have inside, whatever it may be. Honestly.
So I'm going to say to you, if you're going through a domestic violence situation, there's always a way that you can develop a safety plan. One of the key sayings in our community is what goes on in my household stays in my household. Let's stop teaching our children that. Let's start educating our children on what abuse is. If we start at a young age, and especially with our males, training them and teaching them, when they grow up, they will less likely abuse as long as they're educated on it. We teach our males that they shouldn't show their emotions. Let's stop teaching our young men that they shouldn't show their emotions. We need to teach our young men it's okay to show your emotions. Because when they get into relationships or when they grow up and they can't express themselves, that's not okay either. Let's teach our men to keep their hands to themselves. Let's teach our women to keep their hands to themselves. Trauma comes, and I made a status and I said sometimes life don't seem fair. People deal with trauma. How I deal with trauma may be different from how you deal with trauma. But statistics say that domestic violence is a common cause of brain injury in a woman, who constitute the vast majority of victims severe physical violence by an intimate partner. When medical experts look at the brain of a person who has been through domestic violence brain injury, it looks like someone who has been on the football field. We wanted to show that tonight, but of course, with everything happening, we wasn't able to. But the head and the face are common targets of intimate partner assaults, and victims often suffer from head, neck, and facial injuries. What I'll say to anybody, if it comes to a point where you have to put your hands on them, leave. It's not worth it. If you're in that type of situation now, I wish that I could just tell you if you walk away, you'll be okay. I wish that I could tell you if you get a protection order, you'll be okay. I can't. What I will tell you is get you a safety plan together, meaning get your important documents together. Start taking clothes somewhere for you and your children. Make sure you have those important documents. Children, if your mom is getting knocked upside the head, and guys, y'all will notice that I'm just real with this. And this is a lot. Go to your teacher. Go to your counselor at school. Save you, save your mom. Save your siblings. It may not seem fair, and it's not fair that you have to go through it. But at the end of the day, if you're able to save your life, do it. If you need counseling, if you need therapy, don't worry about what Joe Blow across the street say. Don't worry about what Susie say, that you shouldn't do it. It makes you crazy because it don't. Stop looking at that person next to you, and just because they look like they got it together, you never know what a person is going through.
That's right.
You never know that even though they walk around with their hair done, nails done, men with their haircuts, dress twisted, looking decent, you never know. They might be one note away from being suicidal, being depressed, going through anxiety. You never know what a person is going through. So before you throw your tactics, you never know what they're going through at home. One of the things they said tonight is the listening. Listen. It's okay to listen. It's okay not to have anything to say. When a person is going through abuse or have been through abuse, listening is the most valuable thing that you can do for them. Listen. If you can't reach me, it's other people on this panel. Reach out to them. We're all here to help.
That's right.
Our organization number is scrolling down. Our website is scrolling. If you don't want to talk, you want to chat, fine. Go to our website. There is someone that will chat with you anytime or morning, night, or day. Our emergency line is posted. Call. Somebody will answer. If you want to email for whatever reason, the email is right there. Do it. In order for us to do what we do, it takes finances. So if you want to be a blessing, that information is there as well. Again, love you enough to know your worth, no matter whether you're a man or woman. You don't deserve to be hurt. Love doesn't hurt. Become a survivor, not a victim. And we thank you all for viewing. We thank our panelists for coming on. Chosen, we thank you for going through, reliving the moment. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you. And again, can you give them the name of your book? Or
It's called Power of the Cross. It's called Power of the Cross.
And how can they purchase?
Well, actually, I didn't finish telling that story, so they can't purchase it. But when I sent it off, it did get denied, and I have not sent it off to another publisher yet. But I am working on a few other things as far as devotionals and journals. Like, that's really my thing right there. And so I'm working on that as well. But of course, when that does happen, I will have that posted on my Facebook.
Awesome. And make sure you let us know at SWAT so we can let our viewers know that it's available. Barnita, can you give them just a little bit about I Survive?
I Survive Women's Ministry. We come together and we talk and we listen and we encourage each other. And we talk about our struggles that we've been through in life. We come from different churches. It's just not for a true fellowship. We meet every second Saturday of the month at 10 o'clock. And we try to keep it to a 2-hour minimum, but sometimes, the Holy Spirit shows up in the house and we go a little bit over. But we just come together and we pray for each other. We cry with each other. We encourage each other because as women, we go through a lot. We do a lot. We have a lot going on. Not just our household duties. We work. We pastor churches, we co-pastor churches, we preach, we do a lot of stuff. And sometimes we just need that place where we can go. And always say, let our hair down. But as you see, I don't have any. But still, I tell the ladies that's a place where everybody can come, let their hair down. What goes on at I Survive stays at I Survive.
Mhm.
We as if there's something that we need to help you get out of immediately, we will call Vanita, my niece, and we can help from that aspect. But we listen and we pray one with another, and we draw strength from another every time we're together. It's a circle of women, a circle of sisters that come together, and all it takes is one, I need prayer. Nobody has to know what's going on. Nobody has to ask questions. The circle just starts. No matter who starts the I need prayer, we immediately text, so and so need prayer. Just pray. We ain't even got to give a name. Just pray. That's the connection that we all have with each other. Nobody has to know exactly what's going on in your life. If you need prayer at that particular moment, we can touch heaven on your behalf.
Amen.
And it's prayer based, it's Bible based. It's, we just come together and we do what thus says the Lord, and we have fun, we laugh, we cut up, we roll in the floor and cry. But most of all, when we leave, we open with prayer, we close with prayer, and everything that goes on in between stays in between.
Amen. That's
Awesome.
good.
And guys, for some reason, Sean keep going in and out. But if you
I
guys
think
will
he's
follow
freezing.
him, yeah. If
Yeah.
you guys will follow him on Nickel Scents, if you're looking for fragrances to scent your home, if you have allergies like I do, you can't use everything, but that you can. If you follow C. Dwayne Hennett on Facebook, you can purchase his book off Amazon. It's called The Ripple Effect. Go there. I think it's a link from our website as well because he is on my board. So, guys, I thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. We're not going to wear your patience, but again, if you're going through, get out. Um, remember, a protection order is just a piece of paper, but if it will, it will start a step for you. Um, and anything that you need us to do, just reach out. SWAT will be here. Survivors with a testimony, bringing awareness to domestic violence, many forms. Come back next Tuesday. We will be here. We'll be talking about healthy versus unhealthy relationships. And we're being that next month is teen dating, violence awareness month. Everything that we do next month will be towards our teen dating. But again, every Tuesday, 7 o'clock, except for the third Tuesday of every month, we come on at 7:30 because we have our leaders speaking. They are bringing awareness on domestic violence and spiritual abuse. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. You guys be blessed and have an awesome night.
You
Thank
too.
you. You have a good night as well. It was nice seeing and meeting you all.
You as well.